Or should I say business says?
Good morning. We're going to start with the Parsha, talking about the Cheruvim. First of all, Good Chodesh. Today is a new month. Second day of Rosh Chodesh, the first day of the month of Adar. This is a great month. It has the holiday of Purim in it, which makes the whole month a happy month. It says, V'nafleichu. On Purim, things were transformed, completely turned over. It was a negative in the beginning, and something was planned to be a destruction for the Yidden. But not only was it annulled, but it was completely transformed. And Hashem should help that also in our lives, all the negativity should be completely transformed, be only positive and only good things. Amen. The Parsha of Teruma, which is this week's portion, talks about the building of the Mishkan, rather the collection of the money, the items needed, gold, silver, copper, etc., as well as what has to be built in this Mishkan. What are the items? What are the tools? What are the dishes, the utensils, the kalim in this Mishkan, the sizes, what materials are they made out of, and so on and so forth. And probably the most prized item in the Mishkan was the Arein. The Arein was placed in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, the Holy of Holies. It's translated as the Ark, and it had in it the luchais, tablets. It had in it, or next to it, a Sefer Torah. And let's look a little bit in the words of the pasuk about some of the details that we had. I'll say it in English though. And you shall make an ark cover of pure gold, 2.5 cubits its length, and 1.5 cubits its width. So not only did we have this cover of gold, there were 2 Cheruvim. In English, they refer to it as cherubs. And these angelic or childlike faces, which we're going to explore in a moment, were on top of this Arein. Now, there's a mystery as to what these Cheruvim really are. What is it? What did it look like? Okay. So the Gemara in Sukkah, Daf Hey Amud Beis shares, Omar, my Cheruv, what's a Cheruv? What is it? Cheruv in Hebrew can mean cabbage, right? What's Cheruvim? What's a Cheruv? So the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Yavo, Kravya. Now in Hebrew, the word Ravya could mean a child, a baby. Keruv is it's like a child, so it looks like a baby. So on the Kapeiros, there were 2 Cheruvim, which looked like children. Okay, so childlike faces. Torah, however, tells us that they had wings.
The spelling is there.
What?
Spelling is different.
It's true, but the Gemara learns. It's true. Trying to understand what it is, we're saying that word means something, and we could learn from that. Okay, fine. But Torah also tells us that it had wings. That says inside. Persei chnafayim l'mayla, spread wings upwards. So you have angelic faces, which have wings. Not only that, but Rashi brings in the Chumash that it has to be made miksha achas, or miksha tasa oisam, 1 piece of gold. Now, normally when you want to make intricate jewelry, we'll call it, or special types of utensils, the way to do it is you take a piece of gold and you mold it to what you need. You attach different pieces, you break things up, you put together, you make it work. The Cheruvim were much different. The Cheruvim had to be made out of 1 piece of gold, and out of that chunk of gold, you have to chop, hang, bang, hit, and chisel out of that miksha, of that block of gold. You have to get out faces, hammer out. Thank you. Almost like out of rock, right? Without adding any pieces to it. It's 1 piece of gold, which is very, very difficult to make. It takes tremendous skill and craftsmanship. But this is how it was done. So we had big block of gold, which served as the cover of the ark, and the Cheruvim, face of a child, wings coming out of it. There's another opinion the Chizkuni brings, that it wasn't face of children, but rather it was the face of birds. And that's the idea of wings. It looks like birds.
It was body of bird.
Body?
The face of children was the body of bird.
Yeah, we sure the Chizkuni are talking about the faces?
So you want to say that we could combine both of these pshatim together
Yeah.
and say that it is Cheruvim? Okay,
It's all
perhaps. But it's not just the wings. There's a component that Chizkuni says of having a certain type of bird here, because, which it seems from the simple meaning of the Chizkuni that it was either or. It wasn't a baby, it was a bird. Because a bird is a certain type of clean animal and it represents purity, and that was going to be in the Mishkan, in the tabernacle. So, is it a bird? Is it a child? We could share different opinions, understand them. Maybe we could combine them. But I have a bigger question. How could you have images in the Beis HaMikdash? Isn't it Avodah Zarah? Isn't idol worship to have?
Obviously, it's not about the Zara.
Okay, fine. But how does Torah tell us that we have to have a chiseled out boy or girl or babies in the Holy of Holies? It's a little bit of not where you would expect to have any forms of any statues of any source, any sort. Not only that, but why is it so important that it be one piece? Why is that? It's a lot of effort.
Could this
Why do you
piece, could this piece be melted?
No.
It could be melted. Like,
It's got to be one piece.
No.
What?
Could that one piece be melted, and that one piece in its molten form the forms?
It could be, as long as you didn't break it up. A mixture connotates really a clunk.
But it also was part of the cover.
Correct.
So it was not separate.
But let's look at what do we say in Aseres Hadibris? In the Ten Commandments, we said, "Leisasa l'chafesa l'chol tmuna." Thank you for sponsoring the breakfast. Joint sponsorship.
Thank you.
Leisasa l'chafesa l'chol tmuna. You should not make for you any type of graven image. Okay. So here you have in the Mishkan an image of Reuben.
So we have a steer of a nail bay.
You have a principle.
Besides Zara, it's the Zara. Zara means somebody else.
Fine. Let's put the Zara part aside. The fact is, Leisasa l'chafesa l'chol tmuna.
Yeah.
Okay, and we're putting in the Beis HaMikdash a pesel and a tmuna.
Right.
How are we supposed to understand that? So there's a principle which tells us that aseh deicha leis aseh. When you have a positive commandment, it has the ability to override, push away a negative commandment. For example, you're not allowed to do any medical procedures on Shabbos. You can't call unless it's life and death. And yet, if the 8th day of a child's birth is Shabbos, you make a bris. Why? Because the aseh of the bris is deicha leis aseh.
Well, we can learn it's not a medical procedure.
It's not. I use a very loose term for medical procedure, but the point is that you're causing blood and causing. So not, you can't do it if it was the 9th day.
No, you're allowed to sharp the knife, whatever is needed.
It's supposed to be done before Shabbos.
Yeah, but if you don't have it,
But
boil the water, whatever.
When it comes to a woman that has to give birth, there's other exceptions. Because she's within a few days of giving birth, she's in a danger, different things. But the point is that you can do a bris because aseh is deicha leis aseh. Or shatnez, right? Shatnez, you can't mix wool and linen together, right? But if you have a linen garment that has 4 corners on it and it needs tzitzis, you could put shatnez in your tzitzis. Technically, would be allowed. Because aseh is deicha leis. There's many other mitzvahs like that. Many other examples of that where you have an aseh is deicha leis aseh. So the Chizkuni says, yes, you're not allowed to have pesel v'chol tmuna, but in the Beis HaMikdash, it was mutter because the Torah says that you should make the Cheruvim.
Oh, so he's saying I'll say don't.
Yeah, it's not. First of all, it's not Avodah Zarah because you can't worship it. It wasn't this function wasn't for worship. It's not a Avodah Zarah issue, and it's no problem because the Torah clearly permits it. I don't want to use the word simple, but it's a simple answer. You're saying, oh, it's not a problem. Torah allows it here in this case. Torah said it's okay. We want to understand a few layers down. Why does Torah put this situation where in the Holy of Holies there should be a pesel? It's okay. Now, it is brought down that we have to be extremely careful with making of the Cheruvim. Torah says, "Leisasa lechafesel," right? And it says, "Leisasun iti lekei chesef lekei zav leisasun lachem." Don't make for me, don't make for you, gods of gold, gods of silver, and so on. So when it comes to making the Cheruvim, we have to be very, very careful of the instructions of how it's done. You can't make it out of silver, because then it would be like a silver god. Lekei zav, you can't make more than 2 Cheruvim, because if you do more than 2, then it already goes into the category of it could be mistaken or in the same field as Avodah Zarah. And Leisasu Lachem, we learn, don't have this idea that we're going to go to the shul now and the Batei Medrash, and we're going to also make Cheruvim. And Rashi brings very, very clearly that you have to be extremely careful, because it was allowed in the Mishkan in a very particular way, because that is borderline, could be misunderstood as Avodah Zarah. Or in other words, if you don't do it exactly the right way, it's a problem. So you don't do it in your shul. Right? So a bris is permitted on Shabbos only if it's the 8th day. Right? The Cheruvim are allowed to be done only in the Mishkan, only 2, not out of silver. There's all different specifications, because if not, then we got a problem. But let's understand, why does Torah even put us into this conundrum? And why do we have to have this command? You would think that Kodesh HaKodashim, only the Kohen Gadol goes in, only once a year. And it's a allowed idol. That's why I don't have to call it an idol, but it goes into that category, and it's not where you would expect it to be. Okay, in order to understand a little bit how the Cheruvim are not idolatry, we have to understand idolatry. We've recently spoken about this. We brought from the Rambam. Where did idolatry come from? I don't want to get into the whole detail of it, because we spoke about it several times recently. But in short, idolatry does not mean that you negate God per se. You're adding things and giving power to other entities in addition to Hashem. Okay. Unfortunately, it leads to completely getting Hashem out of the picture and not believing in God at all. But there are forms, and there were steps in that process where they felt, the sun has power, which it doesn't. They believe that Hashem is a God over the sun, but they felt the sun has some kind of power on its own. And therefore, they wanted to worship the sun, and therefore, let's say, it was the ocean. They said, if we're going to be nice to the ocean, then it'll be nice to us. Or a false prophet would come along and say that the moon gave him a message to convey that in order to worship the moon, you should make a picture out of a rock and worship that and sing this song. In other words, it leads to many other things. The moment you say, I have something else in addition to Hashem. There's Hashem, but he has helpers, he has ministers, he has assistants. And they have certain powers. Okay? Imagine a king, a typical setup. The king has veto, right? He could stop anything he wants. He did appoint a minister of finance or a minister of agriculture or a minister of education who has power in his arena. And therefore, if you want to get something done, you go to that minister and you work him and you get it done. So you believe the king is in charge, and the king could go and knock him out and put someone else there or change what he said. He could override anything, and he does if he wants to. But ultimately, this minister has some power. He has some say. And people, unfortunately, historically made mistakes, and they said that the creations of Hashem in this world also have certain powers. God gave them powers, but they're powers. And they make choices. And they have a lot of abilities within them. So Avodah Zarah means the moment you say something else in addition to Hashem has a koyach, has an ability. Independently.
or even defended me.
Even
That was
independent.
the first step.
Yeah. But the thing is like this. When I say independently, they're not, it's up to them. Not that Hashem could change it. They have their, on their own, they could do whatever they like. This is really how Avodah Zarah came about. And by the way, as a side note, we've discussed this, but in modern times, people make the same mistake. Not about the sun or the moon, hopefully, but they say it about, I have such a good salesman, I have such a good employee, I have such a good contact. The guy had it done for me. You know how I sold my house? I got the best real estate agent. Got it done. And for a moment, somewhere in a subtle way, you feel that it's that person. He's talented. He got it done. You have to remember, it all comes from Hashem.
Mhm.
And then we're just tools. As the Rambam uses, it's like a tool in the hand of a craftsman. No one's going to say that your car is an amazing driver. Okay? Right? It's the person that's driving it.
Well,
It's
getting
not
close.
what? It's getting close.
Self-driven.
But how does it work? Rabbi very frequently say, choose the best doctor.
Okay, we got off topic. I want to just address this. Very important. You're asking, I'll just say for those that are watching, by the way, welcome everyone online, and you're welcome to share and comment and spread the learning around. We need to use the tools at our disposal. You have to, someone that needs a doctor has to go to a doctor. And someone that needs to, feels they want to sell their house with an agent, they have to go to an agent. All these things have to happen. But don't forget what's the means, what's the tool, and what's actually causing it. The way Hashem set up the world is we have to put an effort. We have to do our part. You can't just sit like this and say, okay, provide. You have to put an effort. But don't forget and think that effort is what's really bringing it. It's a tool to bring it. Your cup is filling up the water, right? The water goes into the cup. It contains it. You get to drink it. The cup is not providing the water. It's allowing you to contain it. So you have to go to doctors if someone needs.
Right, but Rabbi insists on getting the best doctor, not just doctor.
Correct. But even with the best doctor, you don't think, well, he didn't say the best doctor. He said get several opinions, go to a doctor that's your friend. But the point is, don't think that the doctor is the one providing it. Hashem is providing it through the doctor. And don't hope to the doctor, hope to Hashem that through this tool, it'll work. Don't discount the tool either. It's important. We have to remember where it comes from. It plays itself out in business a lot when it comes to honesty. This deal is going to make all the difference in the world. But don't lie about it. Don't cheat. Don't steal from someone else. But it's going to come through this. It's coming through this, perhaps. But it's Hashem. And don't break the way it's supposed to flow. But let's get back to what we're saying here. In order to understand how the Cheruvim are not idols, we need to understand what idol worship is. Okay? What happened in the Cheruvim? The Gemara in Sanhedrin, in Yuma, tells us, Daf Nun Dalid Amud Aleph, shares very interesting concept that when the Yidden would come to the Beis Hamikdash for Yontif, the Kohanim would roll up the Pareches, which was the curtain in front of the Holy of Holies, and they would see the Cheruvim. You couldn't go in, but they could see the Cheruvim, and they saw that they were clinging one to another. This face of the boy and the face of the girl were mu'urin zebazeh. They were clinging one to another. And the Kohanim would tell the Yidden, look the love that Hashem has for you. Look how beloved you are to Hashem. Just like this embrace of the Zachar and the Nekeva, the male and the female. These Cheruvim represented a relationship with Hashem, which is a very deep, loving bond. Now, it represents a deep connection, because when the Hashem was happy with the Yidden, and the Yidden were behaving the way they were supposed to, then these Cheruvim faced each other, face to face. When we were not doing well, so to speak, and Hashem was not happy with the Jewish people, disappointed in our behavior, then these Cheruvim had their backs to each other, which is analogous of two people, a husband and a wife, and when they have their backs to each other, it's not, and they, let's just say, on the best terms. Okay? Machlekes and Gemara Baba Basra, Daf Tzadik Tes Samud Aleph, 99a, about how were the Cheruvim facing. Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Yochanan says they faced each other. And Rabbi Elazar says no, they were facing the base at the outer part, the base of Migdash, the Mishkan. Okay? So they were facing out, or the part, the base. So which one is it? The Gemara answers, it depends what situation the Jewish people were in. When the Yidden were in a good situation, and Hashem was happy with us, and there was a loving expression of Hashem to us as a result, we faced each other. But now we faced the other side. Okay? And the Rashbam says that when they face each other, Shechina rests among the Yidden. When they had their back to each other, there was a distant relationship. There are many relationships in life, parents and children, siblings, friends, teachers and students, partners, and many different types of relationships. But only two parents, spouses, could have a relationship where they become one, and with Hashem, there's a child as a result that is a unification of both of them together. It's a very strong level, an expression of a bond, which doesn't exist in other types of relationships. The Cheruvim are here to express that the relationship between Hashem and the Jewish people is an exclusive one. There's nothing else besides that. There's nothing else besides Hashem. There's no other helpers, no other assistants, no other side things. Children. When Hashem says He created, Torah tells us He created the person, B'Tselem Alik, Zachar Nekeva Bara Isam. Where do you have the expression of Hashem's form? That's in the relationship of the male and the female. And that's what the Cheruvim were. And that's why it was so important, because in the Beis HaMikdash, it expressed Hashem's feeling towards the Jewish people. Okay? It could have been fashioned as one adult and one child. Right? It could have been fashioned as anything. What do they have? Two children, meaning two of the same age, we'll call it, the same stage in life. It's to express the unique relationship with them. Pasuk says, Smach me'eshes nu'urecha. The term young, youth, the woman of your youth, it's an expression which brings out the relationship between two people in a very deep, loving way. And this is what Hashem wants to express to the Jewish people in the Mishkan through the building of the Cheruvim. So the Cheruvim are un-idols, because idols represent other forms, other entities, other deities, other sense sources of power and other relationships. And the Cheruvim represent an exclusive, deep, loving bond relationship, which is only between Hashem and the Jewish people, which is expressed by the relationship between the Zachar and the Nekeva, the spouse relationship. Another reason is brought, that Rabbeinu Bechaya brings, that we want to be inspired when we daven, when we come to the Mishkan, that there are no intermediaries between us and Hashem. When I'm coming to beseech a king for something, I send this one to talk to him, I speak to his best friend, I get in touch with his advisor, I speak to his bodyguard, I try to make it work. When you go to talk to Hashem, there's no intermediaries, it's intermediaries. It's you talking directly to Hashem. That's your relationship, that's your ability, that's your accessibility that we have. And when you see the Cheruvim, one-to-one, it inspires us that our relationship to Hashem is one-to-one. And there's no intermediaries, and there's nothing else possible. Yes?
But we do have the custom of going to the grave of a tzaddik and
very good. So you're asking, again, I'll repeat the question for those that are watching. The question is, why do you go to the grave of a tzaddik to pray if there are no intermediaries? Very good question. So I want to say two things. There are no intermediaries. Okay. However, we do two things by the grave of a tzaddik. Number one, we're asking the tzaddik to pray on our behalf. In addition to my direct prayers, I'm asking the tzaddik to pray for me. It's not an intermediary. I'm praying and asking him to pray.
That's
Now,
the definition of an intermediary.
okay, let me finish, and then we could counter this. So when you daven to Hashem is one level. When you ask a tzaddik to daven for Hashem, you're adding his chusim, his merits, as well. When we daven to Hashem at a grave, what are you saying? Hashem, not praying to the tzaddik. Hashem, please answer my prayer in the merit of this tzaddik. So, when you daven Shemona Esrei, we say, God of Avram, of Yitzchak, of Yaakov. What are we saying? In their merit, in their schus, go to a tzaddik asking for a bracha to help bring down something, it doesn't take away. But the biggest mistake we can make, and some of the greatest, it's a shame when this happens, is we think we're not good enough or capable enough to daven directly. And there is nothing as special and as inspiring when a person knows he's talking directly to Hashem. Hashem wants to hear from him. There's a sometimes difficult thing to understand. The Gemara asks, why is it that the Imahis, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah all had difficulty having children? Okay, even though we find by Leah that it was relatively quickly, it says that Hashem, Vayar Hashem kisnu alei, saw that she was hated, and he allowed her, he had her have children, which implies that it wasn't so simple, but Hashem made it happen. Why do such holy matriarchs have to beg and have such trouble childbearing? The Gemara answers. Listen to this. Because Hashem is nis'ave, he has a desire. He really wants the prayers of the imahis. He wants to hear the righteous people, he wants to hear them pray. So he took something away from them. He made it a challenge in order that they should daven, they should pray. Sometimes that's the whole reason why there's an issue. Hashem wants the person to daven. But the idea of the Cheruvim facing each other is to inspire the direct personal relationship we have with Hashem. That when we daven, we should feel that.
So how brachas work? If we're going tzaddik to receive a bracha.
Okay, it's a very long topic of the brachas. I'll just say briefly. Sometimes the flow and the blessing, the energy is there, but it's stuck. And you need to be able to pull it down. And a tzaddik helps you bring that down. It's there, it's access. But again, it's a very long discussion, and we should and could talk about it separately. A bracha versus a tefillah, there are two different ways of receiving something. It's a blessing versus a prayer. There are two different things. Okay, we have to still understand why is it miksha, why is it made out of one block, and some other lessons of the fact that it's children, and why is it Cheruvim, and so on. The Zohar tells us.
You had to explain why it's there.
We did. It's there to inspire the Jewish people because it's an expression of Hashem's bond.
See it.
Yes, we said, the Gemara says that when the Yidden would come to Eilul Regel, they would roll up the curtain and show the Yidden, they couldn't go in, but they would show the Jewish people a faith. Look how Hashem loves you. The Cheruvim are facing each other. That's the expression of Hashem's relationship with you. A Zachar and an Akeva, an embrace. Huh?
Is that a mitzvah?
No, it's a Gemara.
Ah,
And by the way, nations of the world used to make fun of the Jewish people. You're holy of holies. You know what goes on over there? There's a Zachar and an Akeva and an embrace. That's your holiest place of the world? But what's happening here is it's an expression of the Eibishter's relationship with us. It's not just parent-children relationship. It's not friendship relationship. It's not uncle and nephew, niece's relationship. It's a spousal relationship. It's a very special, exclusive type of relationship.
Why isn't a husband and a wife?
Okay, so very good. So why is it children? Okay. So the idea is like this. The word kapoires is from the same root word as kapara, which means atonement. This piece happening on top of the Aron is an atonement. And that's where the luches were, the tablets. That's where the Sefer Torah was. Why do you have? It's two faces of children. The key depends on children. People often make the mistake and they say, they're just kids. Doesn't really matter. Okay? We will give them education. We'll teach them. And they could decide later when they get older what they want to do with that education. In other words, we'll give you the opportunity to learn some Torah, And when you decide that you want to live a Jewish life, you'll have the tools to do so. We have to understand that you have to treat children and their education like the Holy of Holies. It's the cover, it's the protector. This is the lid over all of these holy things, the luchais, the Sefer Torah, and so on and so forth. And that's why it's made in one piece of gold to express to us that it has to be a mixture. You can't have, people make the mistake, or they used to make the mistake and say, I'm going to have a child, and the child is going to give all different types of opportunities. We're going to send them to a school, they're going to learn this trade, they're going to have that skill, they're going to have this hobby. They're also going to have a subject called Judaism. And if they like it, they'll pursue it. It's going to be a separate part of who they are. There's the child, and then there's the subjects, and the idea is that they learn. And that's not miksha achas, that's not one block of gold. It has to be one. Okay? It's not, it expresses itself as an example. It's never too early for a child to teach a child about Judaism. There's a couple that once came to a rabbi to discuss the education of their children. They were arguing. One parent wanted to start preschool, Jewish preschool right away, a play group, and the other one said, no, we'll wait a few months, a few years. And the rabbi said, how old is the child? He says, 3 months. I said, well, you're 3 months too late. You got to start the education right when the child's born, and the truth is even before that. You can't make it as separate entities. There's the human, and then one of the things that they may choose to do is involvement in Yiddishkeit. It has to be one. It's a common mistake, unfortunately, but when the Aron is told, when we're told the Aron has to be made out of miksha achas, one block, it means don't separate it. And even in the child within ourselves, don't say, I have my time, and I have some Jewish things that I do. It has to become one with you, like one block of gold. Everything else is hammered out from that. The Rebbe Rashab said that just like it's a mitzvah to put on tefillin every day, every weekday, so too it's a mitzvah to spend, to think for a half an hour every day about education of children. It's not an extracurricular thing that just happens. You know, we have a lot of things in life, and we also were Jews. The key to the Cheruvim, the secret behind the Cheruvim, of why it was 2 children and why it was 1 block of gold, is that when it comes to protecting what's holy, it's done through the children. Investing in Jewish education, making sure that children are given the proper upbringing, which is miksha. It's 1 block. You don't have 2 parts to you. There's me, there's my Judaism. It's one and the same. It's together. And that's really what makes it happen. And of course,
guarantors.
Correct. Very good. And they're the guarantors. And you have to involve them now and not connect them later if in any way possible to avoid that. And in summary, the reason why we have 2 forms, which is not something that you want to have, is because Hashem wants to express his relationship with the Jewish people, an embracing love of him and her in the Holy of Holies, because that's how we should feel towards Hashem. That's the way Hashem feels towards us. We have direct access, and he loves us all, and is not someone which is mean or harsh or wants to threaten us. On the contrary, it's done out of the most intense love. Thank you for joining. Share, subscribe, comment. We'll see you again soon.
Yeah. So the question I didn't want to ask online.